Hi, Deacon Ed McCormick here at St. John the Baptist Catholic Community, and this is part 3 in my brief series, The Election and the Kingdom of God. And throughout this series, I've been encouraging you to locate your own life and your vision of the world within the much larger context of the kingdom of God and the coming of God's kingdom through Jesus and the Spirit. So that no matter where you stand on the political spectrum, whether you're excited about the new administration or worried about it, we are part of something that's so much larger than any one political party or any one election or any one country. Now, today is the celebration of Christ the King, the end of the liturgical year. And in our readings today, we have some wonderful images that help us to deepen our understanding of what it means that Christ is King of all, that God's kingdom is coming. And this will help us to once again locate ourselves within this much larger dynamic event that God is bringing about. Now, I want to begin by identifying 3 ways of thinking about God's kingdom that really can undermine the power of the biblical message. Here's the first one. It's this idea that the kingdom of God is within. It comes from one passage in Luke 17, and the word can mean within, but it can mean around us. But what Christians have done is they've kind of privatized the kingdom. It's this inner spiritual experience, and it has nothing to do with the rest of life. A second way that we think about the kingdom of God that can distort it is that God's kingdom is not of this world. And we hear Jesus say this to Pilate at the end of John's gospel. And what contemporary Christians hear is that Jesus' kingdom is in heaven, and that when we die, we'll get into it. And therefore, Jesus' kingdom is not a part of this world. Another version of this is that the kingdom of God is spiritual and not material. In both of these cases, this is not what Jesus is talking about. When he says that my kingdom is not of this world, he means of this age, of this age of corruption and injustice and cruelty. He is talking about how his kingdom is from another age that is coming. And when we say that the kingdom is spiritual and not material, that's closer to Greek philosophical thought than Jewish biblical thought. Remember, the Our Father is clear. Thy kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. So let's see if we can get a more accurate and a deeper and richer understanding of what the New Testament and Jesus means by the kingdom of God. Here's the first thing I want you to realize. If you were living at the time of Jesus, you would have been living under Herod's kingdom, Herod the Great, or the kingdom of one of his sons. You would have been living at the time of the empire of Augustus or Tiberius. And language of empire and kingdom is political. These are political images, and they refer to the extension of one's power. And so the scope of Herod's kingdom referred to how far his power extended out. And so when Jesus talks about the kingdom of God, he's using a political metaphor. And he's speaking about how God's kingdom, God's presence, God's power will extend out over all of creation, all of the world. And there are passage after passage in the Old Testament that speaks of how God is king of all, not just of heaven, but of earth, but of the entire cosmos. And there are 2 powerful passages in the book of Daniel. We hear about one in today's first reading that really help us to grasp the significance of the kingdom of God. And they use these kind of fantastic images. Here's the first one. It comes from chapter 2 of Daniel, and I really encourage you to read this chapter. But the Babylonian king has this dream, and it's a dream of this massive statue. And on the bottom of the statue, the feet are made of clay and iron. And then as you move up the statue, it's made of bronze, its chest is made of silver, and then its head is made of gold. And in the dream, these different pieces of metal that make up the statue represent the different empires that have dominated the world. The Babylonian Empire and the Assyrian and the Greek Empire and the Roman Empire. And in this image, in this vision, the king sees this massive stone coming and smashing this statue and growing into a mountain that covers the earth. And he asks Daniel to interpret this image, and Daniel interprets it as the statue represents the great empires, the pagan empires of the world, and the stone is God's kingdom coming and smashing all of those and becoming the kingdom of the world that will rule forever and ever. In Daniel 7, that we hear of today, Daniel has this image, this vision of beasts, 4 beasts coming out of the ocean. And the ocean is, for any Jew, is the forces of chaos. And out of the ocean comes a lion, and then a bear, and then a leopard, and then some weird beast with all these horns. And Daniel sees that all these beasts are again the empires, the pagan empires of the world, and they will all be destroyed. And a son of man, a man, is seen being carried up to the throne room in heaven, where he is anointed as king of the universe, king over all the empires, and his kingdom will have no end. So you see that for the first century Jews, for the Jewish people, the coming of God's kingdom is political, in the sense that it means that one day all the current empires, all the current nations of this world will be no more. And there'll be one king, and it will be God, who will reign through his Messiah. This takes us to Jesus, because he makes the amazing claim that he is that king. He is that king that God has sent to rule the world. But he's not ruling the way pagan empires rule or the way our nations rule today. He doesn't rule with power and might and armies. Instead, he's bringing an age of peace, an age of justice. And this age of peace that he brings doesn't just mean the end of war. It does mean that. But it means the restoration and renewal of relationships, so that even in Isaiah the prophet, he imagines even among the animals there will be peace and harmony. And this will be an age of justice, where the most vulnerable, the needy, the widow, the blind, the lame, the immigrant will all be treated with dignity and justice. And this, my friends, is what we believe will happen and is happening when we proclaim that Jesus is King of Kings, and this is the feast of Christ the King. Now, in our world today, there's still lots of opposition to this coming kingdom. We find it in the world, in the nations, through big government and through all kinds of corporations, in our towns and cities and nations, even in our church. But we, my friends, can live from the consolation that God's kingdom of peace and justice is coming through Jesus and the Spirit, and we want to be part of it. And we want to stand with those who fight for justice and peace and truth. This, my friends, is our faith. See you in the next video.